So we watched Section 31. So here's a little summary of Section 31. So Section 31 is the secret department of the Federation, which everyone knows about, but it's covert, espionage, that sort of thing, and they deal with all the dark stuff. Section 31 first appeared in Deep Space Nine after Iris Even Bear loved a line by Benjamin Sisko. It's easy to be a saint in paradise. Insert, clip here.
You look out the window of Starfleet headquarters and you see paradise. Well, it's easy to be a saint in paradise.
And it got him thinking about a section of the Federation that deals with all the bad stuff. In fact, the exact quote is, deals with all the nasty stuff that nobody wants to think about. Since then, Section 31 has appeared in Star Trek many times, and Paramount announced that they were going to make a Section 31 TV series starring Michelle Yeoh, the Empress from the Mirror Universe in Discovery. This was back in 2019. The film would have featured a few characters from Discovery, including Shazad Latif.
Hi, Stephen. This is Clem Fandango. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Clem Fandango.
And linking with the Temporal Wars from Enterprise.
It's been a long road.
But in 2023, Paramount announced that the TV series was dead and they were going to make it as a film instead. And to use old speak, it was to be a straight-to-TV film. But they don't call it a straight-to-TV film anymore. They call it something like a streaming event. Anyway, 24th of January 2025 it landed. It's set between TOS and TNG, and it's generally been panned by critics and fans. On Rotten Tomatoes, the critics' consensus is, beam it out of here, Scotty, which made me laugh. But we don't care about them. What did we think about it in Shuttle Bay 4? It's a shame Rashid's not on, because I'd love to hear what Rashid says.
Oh, he thinks it's wonderful.
He mentioned it in the group chat.
Oh, did he?
He liked it.
Ah, interesting. That is good.
Although he didn't say it was wonderful. I think what he said was, I enjoyed it, which is for Rashid saying it was shit.
yeah.
I've seen a lot of people say that the film's terrible, but they really like Michelle Yeoh, so it was all right.
Yeah.
It's like, how much can an actress save a film?
She carried it, actually.
I don't think she's very good in it.
Do you not?
Controversial, but yeah, I'll get to why.
Yeah.
Later on, but I don't suppose you watched Section 31, did you, Gibbo?
It wasn't Star Trek at all for me, because I thought there were no Federation ships, no Federation uniforms. I think you only saw 3 actual aliens that you've seen out of Star Trek in the whole of the episode. The only thing that's ever mentioned about the Federation is that woman there. She is a part of the Federation.
Yeah.
That was it. That's the only Federation thing that was mentioned or seen for the whole film, was she's from the Federation.
And you got one riff of the theme tune. Na, 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 na. That was it, one riff.
Yeah, that was it. And I thought to myself, they should have just renamed it, not Star Trek. It was nothing there, I thought, was Star Trek based or anything to do with Star Trek. Because when you see Section 31 through all the seasons, they're always wearing black. They're always looking incognito. I thought somebody was filming Mortal Kombat next door at one point, and they'd gone in there and stole one of the outfits for the guy with the robot arms. Where the hell is he from, Star Trek? I was like he's from a game console game like that. Mortal Kombat! Yeah, kill! Signal move!
Gibbo, just to summarise, then, you think this should have been called not Star Trek Section 31?
It should have just been called something completely different, like Marvel should have put the fucking logo on it.
It should have been called, I thought it had a Marvel feel. It should have been called Generic Sci-Fi Film. Generic Sci-Fi Film.
It's like you say, this is what you get Star Trek, where you get it on Wish.
Yeah.
My favourite comment I've seen so far is, it's like someone asked ChatGPT to make a Star Trek by Disney film. Which...
I like that. I do like that. That's good.
Yeah, I was very disappointed. I had lots of high hopes.
You did?
And it was, well, because she was in there, innit? She's a good actress. I thought she might have a bit of say in it.
Were you looking forward to it because you was expecting it to be good, or was it because it was new Trek that you were looking forward to it?
I was hoping it was going to be good because of the lineup. With her being in it, I thought it could have been a hell of a lot darker. But I reckon the plot was crap, the storyline was crap, and like I say, they shouldn't call it Star Trek.
Was there anything you liked about it?
It's a film that I've watched once, and I don't think I'll ever watch it again. Because like I say, I've seen Guardian of the Galaxy numerous times, and that's good. This was almost like Guardians of the Galaxy, but worse. A bad version of Guardians of the Galaxy, may I say.
No, I would say that's
But
interesting you say that because I didn't really think about it until you were talking about it. But to me, it had like a Marvel kind of like they were going for some sort of Marvel vibe, and it actually does feel like they were trying to capture a bit of Guardians of the Galaxy, and
Yeah,
it just didn't work.
definitely.
Yeah, it was like one ship with some raggle-taggle alien thing is on a mission to save the world. And to save the world, they have to find this thing to save the world. It's like, I'm sure I'm still out on Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a Guardians of the Galaxy rip-off. A very poor one. Anyway, back to Trek.
No, we're talking Section 31.
Back to Marvel.
Go on then, Kaz.
Right. Start out with my pros and cons.
But did you like it?
I'll tell you when I finish.
All right, okay.
The pros, I like the sounds, I like the music, visuals, the graphics, and some of the green screen I thought was pretty good. The cons, it was not intellectual at any level, and I expected Section 31 to be intellectual and a bit more subtle and a bit more spyy.
Yeah.
Eject a seat, you're joking.
Plot itself was very disjointed, kept flipping backwards and forwards in time across the story arc, and that really put me off it in one respect, because it was like, just stick to a story, will you, for Christ's sake. I love the intro. I thought the beginning was promising. It was very emotional, and it set the scene for Giorgio's background and what happened to her when she became emperor. So she had to kill her family and to show her loyalty to the empire, and I thought that was pretty awesome. I thought, oh, we're going somewhere with this.
Yeah.
And then it just fell apart after that, I think. There was the computer history of where she is being given to the team of the Section 31. And the mission was given to him to work with her, to go and recruit her back again. I like the space station. Was it an ammonite? Is it an ammonite, that structure? I can't think what the name is for that structure, that spiral.
Well, yeah, ammonites are quite spiral things.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of arms. I thought that was a nice space station. That, although the ships dotted about going to and from it, they were a bit naff. Introduction of the team was very poorly written. Characters are all one-dimensional. And why do they all have to have special gifts? How can they blend in when they've got these special gifts? Storyline was weak. It was all about Giorgio and not Section 31, which is what it was supposed to be about. And it felt more like an introduction to a series rather than a standalone film. The story was entirely predictable. The flow just went where it was supposed to go. There was only 2 nods to Star Trek, I found. One officer and the theme tune near the end for that one riff. I think it's purely an action movie. If you turn off your brain and just go with that, you'll enjoy it. If you try and make Star Trek out of it, that ain't happening. Whether I liked it or not, yes, I did actually.
Did you? I thought it's just because from what you said, I thought you were going to say I thought it was shit.
Yeah, I must admit, I didn't see that coming.
It's not what I wanted. It's not what I expected. But I did have a laugh. I thought it was okay. It's not Star Trek, though. It's not.
Yeah, that's what Gibber. I've got a funny feeling that phrase is going to occur quite a few times tonight.
Well, it's not, is it?
Yeah,
it's not.
We went with the or what I said. There's loads of different like vibes to it. Like it's got like a bit of Hunger Games vibes. It's got a bit of like Mad Max vibes. It's got loads of different vibes to it. None of which are Star Trek.
Yeah.
It took, and I'll get to this when we get around to doing us. But it took. Have you got that wrote down?
22 minutes.
It took 22 minutes for the first sound that I recognised as actually Star Trek, and that was on the pad when they clicked the pad on the ship. It made the very familiar noise. I was like, oh, finally, Star Trek.
Our target's name is Data No, dubious moral compass.
And then at the end, when it tried to play the riff, I went, don't do it, turn it up.
I wonder if people's expectation of it being very Trek-like is sort of what has set it up to receive such negative reviews. Whether when they've made it, they've not treated it as a Trek film when making it.
Yeah.
And then everybody was expecting it to be more Trek, and when it wasn't, because Section 31, by its very definition, isn't really Trek. It's not really Starfleet.
I get you. I don't. I wasn't really expecting to be Trekky because it's Section 31.
I expected it to be more spyy though. More.
What are you doing here? Looking for shells?
No, I'm just looking.
Or like DS9 versions of, Sloan and Section 31. That's what I expected.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if it's new Trek and it's, you know, it's a bit Discovery stuff, I'll just look over that and hopefully it's got at least a good plot behind it.
We don't know whether Steve likes it now, but my guess is I actually reckon Steve liked it, but we'll find out. I thought it was a poor film. Okay, I don't think it was shit. I think I think it's mediocre. I actually ranked this higher than Picard season 1 and 2 and some of Discovery. I felt this was a really poor film, but I don't feel like it was an act of Star Trek vandalism. And for me, Star Trek 1 and 2 and a lot of Discovery was Star Trek vandalism. It kind of undid stuff and contradicted Star Trek in a way. And at least this didn't do that. And I can kind of put this to one side. I can be like, yeah, I didn't particularly enjoy it. I didn't think it was very good. But it doesn't feel like it's damn. I mean, it's watered it down, but I don't feel like it attacked Star Trek. And like I say, the best way I can describe it is I don't think it was an act of vandalism. It didn't feel like Star Trek to me either. It's basically a side dish. I can kind of handle the fact they didn't feel like Star Trek because this was always going to be, you know, a bit different. And I think you get away with that with a standalone film. If it's a Star Trek TV series, you don't get away with that because it's part of, you know, the main mass of Star Trek. And I think that's what Discovery was guilty of. So I can see that this does happen in universe. I can accept that this is all, you know, in universe and it's canon with Star Trek. And, you know, and we see Garrett, that, you know, from Yes's Enterprise. I do get that. I do buy into the fact that is Garrett. But it felt very by the numbers. And Kaz kind of, you know, mentions this as well about the fact that you kind of know exactly where it's going. There's a bit where you hear there's a portal that's opened up and it's going to close in, I think it's 4 hours time.
But it'll open again in 4 hours.
And as soon as I heard that, I thought they're just going to lob this powerful weapon through that portal when it closes. That's what they're going to do. And that's what they did. It was just so obvious. And this weapon, to me, that undermined the whole thing for me, this weapon, because it just seemed ridiculous. You see a couple of blacksmiths hammering, right? And then they create this brass thing, and all of a sudden it's the most powerful weapon or something that can destroy trillions of lives. It could destroy all lives in a sector. I'm like, how? It's just a little Pokeball thing. You know what I mean? It looked like a Pokemon. I can't remember the name of the Pokemon now, but it did look like one, I thought. And I thought, well, where's all this power? It doesn't make sense that this thing's really powerful, and then, you know, they accidentally trigger it, and there's no way to turn it off. There's no fail-safe. To be fair, they do explain that was part of the design, that it didn't have a fail-safe.
There was no fail-safe. I wouldn't allow it.
But how did they trigger this thing? It was on a really thin plinth in the middle of like the bridge of a ship. And like, if you've got this thing that's like the most powerful weapon ever, you don't stick it on what is effectively a stick so it can get knocked off and then you can't turn it off once it gets activated. It just seemed absolutely ridiculous to me. In fact, the words I've got here are, if this is one of the most powerful weapons ever created, you'd stick it in a protective box or something. Fucking stupid. Honestly, it really wound me up, that. Michelle Yeoh, I know people said she's really good. And I do think Michelle Yeoh is a great actor, and I loved her in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was massive when that came out, and I remember loving that film. So I do like Michelle Yeoh, but I thought she was horrible in this. I don't blame her as an actor. I think English isn't her native language for a start, and when you're trying to get someone to say all these kind of like cool phrases, it just doesn't work. They're trying to make her sound badass, and it just feels forced. And there's even a moment where Giorgio's talking to like the adult version of that kid that she knew, you know, that she had that relationship when she was younger, and she stood in such a weird way, and it's clearly just so she's got a cool silhouette. But because it looks so unnatural, it just looks dumb. It's all style over substance. You get this big explanation at the beginning. I think Kaz mentioned this. I think he said you quite like this. And it's quite, there's a lot of exposition there, but I can understand it. It's a bit like the scrolling text on Star Wars, but it's like a computer report. But it's full of exposition. Every so often, my wife will play a video game, right, on the PS5, and I'll watch her play it, right? And I felt like I was watching somebody play a video game because it's cutscene, like a video game where they'll all talk about something, and then you get a bit of action. Then all of a sudden it's a cutscene, then a bit of action, and it just felt like a video game. It didn't feel like a film, and you can see how the original like TV series script was maybe cobbled together to make this, because it's like you've got a set piece, a little bit of conversation that doesn't feel natural in any way, shape or form, and then more action. I mean, there's a bit where they're on like these platforms that are moving. It's like Indiana Jones on the minecart.
Yeah.
And I'm watching that and thinking that looks just like a video game level, where you then move on to the next bit, then the next bit, then the next bit, and then they throw it through the portal. And by the way, this is more for the discussion later on, but when they throw it through the portal, what happens, right? It must kill trillions of people on the other side. And that's not very Star Trek to me. That's not Star Trekky at all. I mean, the Empress as well, right? I know that in the Terran Empire, she's this really nasty person who's come over, and she's probably responsible for genocide and things like that. And it does feel like she ought to be held to account to some extent, not running a fancy bar somewhere. Do you know what I mean? But there we go. So, do I feel this adds to the Star Trek universe? Yes, I think it does, but barely anything. I don't think it adds much to the Star Trek universe. It's not thought-provoking. It's not stimulating. It's visually bland, and I'm talking about the directing there. There's bits where the camera's just constantly going around like that, and I was feeling dizzy watching it. I'm like, what the fuck? Honestly, I'd actually just been watching Severance before I watched this, which is a gorgeously directed piece of TV. So maybe this didn't compare very well to that, but I didn't think it looked particularly good. So although I don't think it adds much to Star Trek, I also don't think it takes much out of Star Trek, if you know what I mean. I said before about that act of vandalism. It doesn't shit all over Star Trek like I think some of the new Trek does. I think it leaves most of what we know untouched. So although I'm not a fan, I'm not offended by it. I'm not angered by it. I wasn't expecting much from it. I didn't get much from it. I won't be watching it again. The fact that this is just like a side dish, a standalone film, I can accept that this is part of the universe because it's not, it's not a dominant part of Star Trek.
I was going to say, obviously, I'm coming from this as I've watched TNG and just over half of Deep Space Nine now. Yeah. So obviously, I'm not coming from the same like massive Trek background. I thought the exposition that when it's the computer talking,
yeah,
I felt like a cheap game of laser tag. Like when you're in that room before you go into the laser tag.
Yeah.
That's what I felt like I was sitting through, and it was like, and I was just about to go off and do that.
This is Control with a priority message for Alpha Team Leader. Your subject is Emperor Philippa Georgiou.
I really loved the costume design. I know you weren't as keen, but I thought some of the costumes were absolutely fantastic. The dress that she's wearing in the last scene, I was pointing at that going, I want that dress, I want it. The Vulcan accent. I'm someone that has to go away and see like have to know the backstory, and the actor, he's South African, and so I was like reading a lot of the things, and it was like, this is now winning awards for the worst Irish accent in anything ever.
No one is more locked her down than me right now.
And I then couldn't get past it to sometimes hear what he was saying, because it threw me up, because it was so ridiculous. And then another really big thing for me, like all the comic relief actors, so like the was he Fuzz and the one in the suit that was supposed to be like funny, they were just so over the top and just really cringy.
I'm gonna just explain this one time that when you are talking about the suit, you're talking about Seth.
Like if it was over a series, it would have that time to like build it up, and naturally, like I'm thinking like characters like Quark, and even now like in some of the Deep Space Nine, like Odo's being a little bit fun. Like we just watched the one where they shrink down and then they come back and Odo's like, oh, you still look a bit short. Like you've got that time to build up that relationship with that character, but they've just tried to force it in the space of like 90 minutes, or it was just over 90 minutes, wasn't it? But they've just tried to force it and like shove it down your throat. Like it just doesn't translate very well to film. That's sort of my main thing, sort of from a maybe perhaps like a non-massive. But then I do really get, like, I've obviously have only seen those tiny few bits, but I still understood everything, like, so I can see that how it wouldn't interfere with the wider Star Trek world building.
It was, honestly, I like sci-fi films as well. The worst sci-fi film I have ever seen, and I like B movies, so I just, but normally B movies need some sort of cheesy funny plot in the background. What was the plot? Nothing happened in the whole film until like 2 minutes from the end. And it's like, oh, you've got a box that makes no fucking sense. There's been no world building towards it. There's been no explanation of even what it is. It's just a weapon that two guys hit and then kill themselves with. How would you even know it worked if they'd all just kill themselves? Anyway, don't even get me started. I think the fact that it's called Trek is the biggest insult to Trek that I've ever seen. I dislike Discovery and most new Trek, but at least it tries to be Trek. Even the J.J. Abrams films are Trek compared to this. Like, why did it take me 20 minutes to notice that? Remember that it was actually a Trek film? Yeah, the ships were terrible. It might as well have been Star Wars. What the hell was that thing landing facing? I thought we'd established in Star Trek lore that massive ships couldn't land on planet, and now we've got something that looks like an Imperial Star Destroyer nose diving into a planet within 10 seconds. Like, go on, get a grip. Yeah, but people talk about missile locks. It's like, oh, right, they have them doing.
Plot missile lock.
It was just horrendous. The flashing lights in every scene were doing my absolute head in. So it's just what you want on a bridge is that strobe lights, almost strobe lights in the background. You don't want a perfect level. What you'd like is it to be like my webcam when it goes all funny, So it's like, yeah, a bit like that. That's what you want all the time. Yeah, the bridge is also an interrogation room. Why is the ship like vibrating in the air when it's on the planet, the Section 31 ship? Why is it vibrating like it's half cloaked, half not? What is that about? The whole thing with the thing and the phasing, I actually thought at least that gave it some, that's been discussed before, at least with the one where it goes through the asteroid and stuff. The funniest thing I think was the transporters annoyed me within like 2 minutes. Like when they were on the Terran home planet, I was like, "What are they transport? Why are they? What is that?" And then you went, Francesca went, "What's that stupid noise?" And I went, "I think that's supposed to be the transporter." She was like, "That's not what it sounds like." I was like, "Yes, no, it's not." Oh, I didn't like the plot. Even if it had been a generic sci-fi film, I still thought it was terrible. Because once I got into the film, I was like, okay, let's give this an attempt now.
Yeah.
At watching it as not a Trek film and just something else, and I still despised it. Like, it just wasn't funny.
We sort of watched the first half an hour, and we were like, okay, it's not Trek, but it might still be an all right film. But then, I mean, I don't have any sort of social media, but I just found myself browsing LinkedIn at about the 45-minute mark. So.
Yeah, it wasn't.
But
it just.
I think it's because we were maybe expecting it to be like Kaz was saying, a bit more spy-y and a bit more that sort of vibe to it.
Yeah, I was really expecting it to be sort of like slow Section 31, and even if it was new Trek, I'd have got over the new Trek like visuals, but it wasn't. It just wasn't Trek even remotely. In fact, I had to put on Wrath of Khan afterwards for a little bit just to
get you back in the mood.
I wish he was joking. No, we had to sit and watch 15 minutes of Wrath of Khan before we could go to bed.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things where you're just sitting there, Frankie, you're just looking at John Joe's head and the vein in the side just slowly go down and stop trying to burst out the side of his head and give him an aneurysm.
I re-signed back up to IMDb as well, so I could do a 1-star rating.
Oh, wow, that's powerful.
Honestly, I can appreciate something. Right, I don't like Discovery, but I can appreciate the fact that some people do, and at least it's trying to be Trek.
Yeah.
And with certain J.J. Abrams films, at least it's trying to be Trek-ish. But anyway, I'll stop there.
One point you made there I think was really interesting. When about that 22 minutes you said before you heard like a Star Trek sound. I wasn't conscious of this. I wasn't aware of it at the time, but now you've said it. That to me, I mean, I've always mentioned it's the sounds that kind of bring me into it. You hear those sounds, it kind of like it's like it feels like an embrace when you hear the Star Trek sounds. And you're right. There was just that's just one of the things that just really didn't feel like Star Trek to me. I'm not sure if I made it clear though in my comments because I think I made it sound like I actually did enjoy it. I didn't. All I'm saying was I don't think it was complete shit because I think this is just one of those mediocre films I see all the time. I think a lot of the Marvel films are mediocre, to be honest, as well. Actually, it's a lot of just like posing like that kind of shot, and it felt like this was just by the numbers. You said it perfectly, to be honest, John Joe, and I don't think I could say it any better. He said it was like you asked ChatGPT to write a script for, whatever, and it's just looked at what's out there, picked. not even all the tropes, just like some standard by the numbers plot that you've seen so many times that it was. So I did think it was bad. It just didn't. It just wasn't offensively bad to me in that respect, if you know what I mean.
I think because we're just really like, I don't think together we've ever watched any superhero or any that type of. That's just not our sort of film whatsoever.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually,
So
I don't like anything like that.
Maybe we it wasn't Star Trek. Plus, we're not fans of that genre of film. And if it was a standalone, not Trek film.
But you do raise one good point, Dan. It doesn't break anything.
Yeah.
Except it does kind of, because Section 31's always been this in the shadows, really serious intelligence agent, and now it's whatever this is.
Yeah, but do you see it?
But then equally, it's almost like this film could be easily ignored in the Star Trek universe.
Yeah.
It could be deleted. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is deleted.
But if it did, if all of a sudden it was like introducing aliens that we don't discover, we know we don't see until a later series, or if it was doing stuff like that, then I would have been like, this is absolute bullshit. It's shitting all over Star Trek. But because it didn't do that, I can allow it to exist. I don't have to enjoy it. I'm never going to watch it again. But I'm like, do you know what? It didn't break anything, at least.
It's one of those things. It seems like it's one of those things. Like, we discuss obviously Trek in this every week, and with Discovery, like, Discovery was a pile of shit, but it was a pile of shit that was Trek. This could easily be dismissed. But the way that everybody's viewing it at the moment, I could see it being easily dismissed.
Like, no, because the vast majority of people have said so far this isn't Trek, so I'm not just getting old.
Yeah, I mean that is the most common, because before I joined this call, I had a quick look, and that is like the most common comment you see. It's not Star Trek.
It's not even Section 31 though, is it?
And it was messy. It was, like sitting on the front row of a cinema and you can't make out what's happening because
it's all over the show. Yeah.
Oh my God, I missed half of it.
That was one thing I didn't say, actually, that I would like to tag on the end of my review. They had this beautiful set for her office.
Yeah.
And all they kept focusing on was that ludicrously bright light behind her. And every time it went to a one where they'd got these beautiful sets, it just started going flashy and fuzzy and bang and lens flare. And I'm like, look at that set. They paused for a second. That set looked incredible.
Yeah.
And
what you've got here is you've got everything's been put in special effects and fuck all's been put in the story. And the wannabe plankton, what fucking species was that? Because I was scratching my head. And then was he a changeling? They called him. He turned into a chameleon and turned into a fuzzy.
Is one from
freaky,
like Star Trek? Is it Star Trek 6, 5? The one where they're in prison.
With that girl.
Yeah.
I did like the fact that the bald-headed lady with that species, you saw it in the motion picture. She was one of them.
Yeah,
she was a Deltan. So they shown what the Deltans do to males. They've got that chemical and the sex. That was nice, and then they killed her off. It would have been really a bit better to see a bit more of that. But I just thought this was Suicide Squad meets Guardian of the Galaxy meets Star Wars.
Generic.
It was just a generic sci-fi film. But at the end of the day, I just turned on.
Don't you dare say any Trek is good Trek. It is Trek. I'm happy to have it.
I wasn't impressed. I've not watched it again. Since me and Dee watched it about 2 weeks ago, I've not watched it again. Kira said she wanted to watch it, but then she said, is Janeway in it? So now she doesn't want to watch it. She wants to watch Voyager, but she's agreed to watch it with me. So from a young person, because I think this is what it's aimed at, new Trek fans.
So this was something else I picked up on in not so much the later bit of it, the first sort of half an hour. It's all very much things that you could clip into shorts content that you could put on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. It's you could clip it down into 1 minute to catch people's attention.
Put the entire film down in 1 minute.
It was also, they tried putting cyberpunk in it. What was it? What did they call his obsession? Mecha what?
What we call mecha dysmorphia.
I wasn't impressed. Dee's not impressed with that actor anyway.
But Sean Slater.
Yeah, Sean Slater. I just turned off, watched it. It killed a few hours. Have I seen it again? Will I go out of my way to watch it? No. Would I say it's shit? Yeah. I knew what I was expecting ever since Discovery. I like some of the Discoveries. I don't like some of the Discoveries. I liked Picard. Some people didn't. I love Trek. I'm sorry to say, I think the Trek that we're used to is dead and buried, guys.
I don't think it has to be. I don't think it has to be.
I've got a bad feeling. I've just got a bad feeling. And when Sundance take over, I think you're just going to get JJ shit.
It could this be the reset? Could this be the we're actually going to listen to the fans? It's a perfect opportunity. It's going to Sundance. They've just had something that's bombed, clearly. Although we've all watched it, so they've got the money out of us. But I would like to give you a little bit of credit though, because you noticed I've watched Trek all my entire life, and within 30 seconds of it being on, you went, "There's a Vulcan laughing there." Before I'd even noticed there was a Vulcan in the room.
Totally wrong.
Oh yeah, but then they say he's a robot.
Yeah.
If it's supposed to blend in, though, he wouldn't be laughing, would he?
I think in season 2 of Discovery, Giorgio is sent through the gate by the guardian of the gate because she's dying. So he sends her back to the mirror universe. So when I watch Section 31 and I find out she's not gone back to the mirror universe.
He doesn't send her back to the mirror universe.
He
doesn't do that.
I thought he did because she was dying because she didn't belong there.
He sent her back in time to a period where those two universes weren't so far apart that it was making her ill. Maybe even further, but no, he sent her back hundreds of years to a point where the universes weren't separated so much, and that's what was making her ill. So it was to a point where the universes were still closer together and links between them were still possible.
And another thing, now they've sent that bomb through the portal, does that mean the mirror universe is because the little basketball had the power to destroy?
No, they blew up the portal. They didn't blow up the universe the other side of it.
No, it would have gone.
They would have blown up a sector of that.
Yeah, when it went through, and we never heard that later when they went to the mirror universe in Deep Space Nine, they never said, "You bastards, you sent that fucking Pokeball through and destroyed 2 billion people here." That was never mentioned.
That's probably why the Terran Empire in DS9 is a shadow of its former self.
Maybe
it's now all slaves.
There you go. Headcanon fixed it. You come up with a better story plot in that 30 seconds than that entire film.
But yeah, it's that's all I can say about it.
Didn't even hear any Star Trek music, barely. I think I heard it once. I went, oh, there it is. Oh, it's gone again.
So that's when I was screaming, "Don't you dare!"
You haven't earned the right to play that music.
It just felt totally incongruous.
There was no Star Trek sounds. There was no Star Trek music. I didn't hear much of that at all.
Oh, some of the music was good. I like the music.
I didn't like it. I thought
it was good, but it wasn't.
It's too contemporary. It ages it really quick then. So in 5 years' time, I'll just, if anyone ever watches it again.
The only thing I can say, John Joe, is when they said they've targeted us with missiles, they'll probably get away with that saying, but it was a Terran ship that had come from the other universe.
Right. Yeah, but the Terran ship fired photon torpedoes at them, so.
Yeah, I know. But it had a missile, though.
It wasn't. It was a garbage scow, wasn't it? From their planet.
And they had magnets.
Right. Don't get me started. Anyway, I've already been on that.
Dan, what have you done to your arm?
Oh, can you see it from there? I've got.
When you just reached over, I was like, "What the fuck have you done?"
Whenever I bleed like mad. I've got a tiny scratch in my arm from when I was playing with the cat, and I just kind of caught it, and it honestly, whenever if I'm ever involved in a horrible accident, I will just bleed to death because I just bleed like mad. I do honestly. I'll have a tiny cut, and people, oh my god, what have you done? Like it's like a pinprick.
I've literally just finished watching it.
Okay.
Best impressions.
You're gonna hate me for this, and you're gonna really fucking hate me, but I liked it.
Ooh.
I'm sorry, but
Spicy.
I'll tell you what I liked and what I didn't like.
Yeah.
What I didn't like was all of the team members all had their own issues. They were all like really tetchy. Really did bug the shit out of me. The one thing I did like, and I really love this bit. It was the bit right at the very beginning where it's broke down the mission. It said, "This is Philippa Giorgio," and you had all the stuff come up about her, and then all of a sudden it was all greyed out and redacted, and it just kind of pulled out the whole mission log. That was brilliant. I love that.
I'm sorry, you've just been to Laser Tag as well, haven't you, Chris? Did I see that on Facebook?
Yeah.
You missed Francesca's comment. She said it was like a cheap Laser Tag introduction. That's why we're laughing in the background. Sorry, please carry on. I'm not laughing at you.
Did well. I've
It's all
come
right.
second. in
Chris
both
went
games.
to an expensive laser tag, so don't worry.
Proper lasers.
Yeah, he had a missile lock and everything on everybody.
Yeah, it was great. Generally, would I watch it again? Probably not, but it certainly wasn't like the worst Trek thing that I've seen. I think that a special level of hatred goes to Into Darkness for that. That film was just all over the place. It was absolute dog shit. This was, in comparison, this was great. So yeah, I liked it. I thought the ending was a bit, it was okay. The fact that everybody had their own little issues, that was annoying.
Very Suicide Squad, wasn't it?
Because you think Section 31, you think, they're supposed to be like special op, covert people, they blend into the background. And all of these characters did anything but blend into the background.
What, you had a cheapo Plankton, that fucking chain, what was it, Chameleon?
Metal Mickey.
Yeah, Metal Mickey. From EastEnders. Was it EastEnders?
Yeah.
It was.
From EastEnders.
Sean Slater, you said.
Yeah, first thing
You
you
just-
said,
you-
Sean Slater's in it. You went, who's that? I went, oh, you don't need to know.
Have we done the thing of, has Steve liked it, yes or no yet? Have we done that?
No, not yet.
No.
Oh, well, I'm going to go on a limb here, and I'm going to say Steve thought it was shit.
I think Steve liked it.
All right, shall I go next then, and we'll get this bit out of the way.
Oh, go on then. Who reckons?
So come on, place your votes. Thumbs up, thumbs down. What are we going to go with?
Steve
likes JJ. Steve likes JJ films because he was just shaking
that
his
case.
phone.
Okay, my verdict. Oh, pile of dog shit. Fucking hell. What a waste of my life. I could not believe I was sitting in a hotel room 2 days after that came out. It was costing 300 quid for the night, and I spent an hour and a half of it watching dog shit.
2 hours.
Right?
2 hours.
It fucking felt like 3 days.
Felt like January.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can tell me about it. So, like a lot of what you guys had said, all these characters, it was just this dumb hick that, had this metal suit on, and it's like, oh, he's got mental illness. He needed a counsellor, not Section 31. Do you know what I mean?
He needed sectioning.
And the plankton, that was fucking pointless. I found it really hard to understand a lot of what was being said. When they showed shots of it, and you trying to sort of, I don't know, it was almost like I couldn't focus on it properly. My eyes wouldn't focus on it properly, and it was just like,
Try to protect you.
it was just like,
A trauma response.
yeah, I mean, they all had their own issues, like the whole Suicide Squad thing. It was just like, when you see Sloane in DS9, he's slick, he's invisible. You wouldn't notice him if you walked past him at any other time. He wouldn't stand out, and he had all these secrets and he made shit happen. And you look at these guys, and it's
No
like
intrigue.
It's like the Flintstones with hand grenades. Do you know what I mean? It was like, oh, let's bumble through life, and I think when they originally, because I didn't bother watching it again, I knew I had to watch it again for this week, and despite having the entire day off, I decided to watch a documentary on the hijacking of Flight 73 from Pan Am instead of this, because I just couldn't bring myself to bloody watch it. And this bloody weapon. Like, what the fuck? We didn't even know if the weapon was...
Or is it God's?
Or I didn't know whether the weapon was biological or biomechanical.
What did they say it was a virus?
Or I don't...
No, they didn't.
I just
really
didn't...
explain
They didn't. And it was just like, oh no, look, here's Philippa Giorgio. Oh, and here's a magical weapon. Here's a bunch of misfits that she's going to use to solve it. And in the meantime, we're going to blow shit up and fuck around instead. But because this is Star Trek, we're going to insert one character in and reference probably twice Starfleet in the entire film. That's not Trek, that's crap. It is literally crap on a stick that they've set on fire and we've all been sat there to watch it burn. Just absolute... do you know what? I'd rather watch seasons 1 and 2 of Discovery than sit through that pile of crap again. Picard series 1 and 2... and now Section 31 have all got this lovely little box in my head that I'm going to seal up and push to one side and occasionally let out a burst of hatred over every now and then.
I watched it on the day of release, and I didn't take notes. I just sat and watched it, thinking just take it as it is. It's for me the we've all said they put Star Trek in the title, which is a shame. But I think most of you have said it was Section 31, but it wasn't. Section 31 is established in the Star Trek universe. We've seen it in Deep Space Nine. We saw a lot of it in Discovery, and they were, a professional organization. They were our version of the Tal Shiar, and it never reached that kind of level of what the Romulans did with it. But that's what it was supposed to be. It's even mentioned in TOS in it. So it's established in the universe, but they didn't. They called it Star Trek, and then they called it Section 31, and it wasn't either. It wasn't even a Section 31 film. So I was disappointed that they didn't include anything that we knew of Section 31. A lot of you have quoted Sloane in Deep Space Nine, and I could understand if they went away from that, if I'm honest. But Discovery, Michelle Yeoh was in Discovery and was, a good character in Discovery and with strong performance. And at the end of Discovery, they even made that guy the head of Section 31. What was his name?
Was it Shazad Latif?
Yeah,
Was his character?
Yeah, I can't remember his. Yeah, but they made him head of Section 31.
Ash Tyler,
You
yeah.
totally expected. Yeah, you totally expected there to be a link there somewhere. And then to see that ragtag group of what they put together to represent Section 31 was really idiotic. It didn't make sense at all because it is supposed to be a secret organization. They're supposed to be on the outskirts and outside of everything while also masterminding, what's going to happen. And yet these people were buffoons. They were so obviously, they stuck out in a crowd, and there was no way that they could be classed as spies or anything like that, working in the background and in the dark. They were all buffoons, and it was a shame that they took it that way. It totally felt like a Guardians of the Galaxy because that's about a misfit group of characters that just came together. They weren't actually supposed to be working together, and that's what happened. It was disappointing on that level that it wasn't a Star Trek film, but it wasn't a Section 31 film as well. It was totally about Michelle Yeoh's character. But it was all so obvious. You knew from the beginning, like I knew in the opening scene, I knew she was going to kill her family. I don't know if you all did, but it was like, well, that's obviously going to happen. And the whole film, even right at the beginning, I knew that character, that she was up against and then became her servant. I knew he'd come back into it in the end. I absolutely knew it. It was just so obvious that the plot was bad, the writing was terrible, the pacing of the film was all over the place. It was we've all said it was just like this bit of exposition and then straight into an action scene. You could kind of tell it was originally decided it was going to be a TV series, and maybe what they were going to try and do was tell that story over a TV series, and yet then had to do it in an hour and 40 minutes. And so it made no sense whatsoever. Even as a generic sci-fi film, it was terrible. So it wasn't even like a B film. And B films often are able to kind of make fun of themselves, though. They play with it, and they know there's bigger, massive budget films out there that are similar. And yet they're able to play with that and make it actually really enjoyable because of the fact that they've got low budgets. It didn't have a low budget. The Michelle Yeoh character, apart from learning a bit about her background, which even though it was okay, I still didn't understand why did the previous emperor decide that she was just leaving and had to put all these people through this test that she was doing to then say, right, you were going to be empress, because she was already that again goes against what we know of that universe. They hold on to that role and reign as long as they can. And yet all of a sudden it was just like, all right, we're having these kind of games, and the last two are going to have this one task to do, and whoever does it first, which is kill your family, you are going to become empress. That didn't make any sense either. So even though I didn't expect it to be Star Trek, and to be honest, it's okay for it not to be, because this was outside of the Federation totally. This was Section 31 going outside the Federation. None of them characters that we saw were part of the Federation, or even if they were acting separately and, in a different part of the galaxy. So that was okay. But it was still massively supposed to be Section 31 film, and that was not, they didn't do that at all. I don't know why they could have done that in the TV series if they were going to use those kind of characters as Section 31 agents, because it didn't work at all. It was actually offensive. The characters were offensive because they were all one dimensional, but they were all so individually different that it was just like putting together this group for the sake of it. So you've got this one idiot, this one person who's got this one talent. I do not talent, but he's like basically a changeling. You got the one fucking oaf motorhead. who's just there to punch people with his big arms because he's got this disease that they invented. I don't know. It was a really bad film. I hated the fact that you mentioned the only character that's from, as we know, the Federation was Garrett. I hated the fact they used her because it's like you're destroying her backstory, as far as I'm concerned. Just because if it was done as well as a Section Worth 31 film, and she was this like agent who worked it fine, okay, that might have worked, but they didn't. They made it this group of idiots, and so to just use her for the sake of having something that we recognize from Star Trek and from the history of it as we know it, or the future of it as we know it. I didn't like that. I really was irritated that they used Captain Garrett because she was an amazing character in that episode, and there's been novels written about her, and yet they give her that backstory. It was just again giving us something to relate to.
Yeah.
That was not necessary, and I didn't enjoy that at all. So I do think the whole film was pants, even if I did sit there and try and take myself out of it. Okay, try and, it's part of the Star Trek universe. Take yourself out of that. I tried that all the way through, but it was still such a bad film that I wouldn't watch it again. I was considering, because I hadn't made notes, well, maybe you should, and I was never going to watch that again. I was not. So I have got one point, and Francesca, you've already mentioned it. The only good thing from this film was her outfits, and I would wear them as well. I wanted all of her outfits. They were amazing. She looked amazing in this film. She came across, I don't know, a one-dimensional character, whereas we know that Giorgio and the Empress is such a layered character, but they made her into a one-dimensional character. The whole plot of the film was bad and obvious, and it kind of ruined it, really. Like once they decided for it not to be a TV series, I think they should have just cancelled it.
Yeah.
Cancelled the whole idea. Because it had terrible reviews. There are some people out there who enjoy it, but I don't know who they are.
Rashid enjoyed it. Bless him.
Yeah, but he didn't. All he said for Rashid, he put in there, "I enjoyed this film." Now for Rashid, that is like saying this is shit because he gushes about everything.
Yeah, it's so lovely, isn't it?
What year is this? Where are we? What's going on?
I was the same actually. Because to me,
is it 20 years before TNG or 30 years? Or she's 30 there because she's supposed to be 50 in yesterday's Enterprise, and she's supposed to be 30 on this. So is it about 20 years?
They call it the Lost Era. They call it the Lost Era. So this is supposed to be based after Star Trek 6. After Star Trek 6.
Yeah.
So the movie. So all the TOS crew are old. So between that and TNG. But again, it didn't make sense, and they could have tried to put something in there to give us an idea of that. Yeah, she gets sent back in time in Discovery.
It doesn't get. There isn't much in the way of years between the Enterprise B and the Enterprise C.
Right.
I feel like
I don't want to place it as like I was a bit worried when I thought they was going to put it in the Lost Era, because the Lost Era is the one untouched little bit of possible redemption of
Romulan War.
Yeah, and honestly, if this had been that, I'd have burnt down CBS. That'd have been it. I'd have been going to jail.
Did anybody else have Romulan War on the John Joe bingo card tonight?
I feel like they glossed over, as I keep saying, as someone that isn't, massively.
Francesca, you've seen 90% of all the good Trek after watching TNG and Deep Space Nine.
But I feel like they've glossed over it so that people like me, I don't know when it's set. Like I said to you, when's it set? And you said, "Oh, I'm not sure." And I was like, "Oh, right, okay, well, doesn't really matter then." Because I knew that she was on the Enterprise C, but because I wasn't really paying that much attention. But I could still get the plot of the film without knowing that next level Star Trek info sort of thing.
I suppose that was the point, weren't it? It's meant to be accessible. It's not meant to be impenetrable, so anybody could, pick it up and watch it. But yeah, it's a bit bilge though, isn't
it? Anything else, babe?
I'm getting an idea. No, because I don't understand. Because she was there. Was she in Discovery? Right? She's in season 1, right? And Pike and the Disco and the Enterprise are even at her.
That's season 2.
But then you just said it's Kirk is old. And Kirk's not even in charge of the Enterprise when George using Disco. So what year is it?
It's set 20 years before.
It's set 10 years before TOS, but then goes into the future later.
But you just said Kirk's old now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is now.
Yeah, because it's after all the films, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Discovery is a nightmare, isn't it? Because it jumps and chops and fucking time
But
changes.
season 2, they end up going forward in time, don't they? To the far-flung future. So season 3, when you have some fella who somehow destroys all the lithium crystals because he has a temper tantrum.
George always goes forward in time with Discovery, and then what happens? She starts to get ill, and they recognise the reason for that is because of her universe being so far apart now from this universe. It's causing her to be ill. So she goes to the Guardian of Forever, and he sends her back in time to this period in time.
I was just looking on Wikipedia, of all places, just to see if it said when this was set. It doesn't, but this made me laugh. There's a line here that says, in March 2024, Michelle Yeoh says she was open to making a sequel if the first film was successful. So that's not happening.
That's never going to happen.
Stay up for a sequel, didn't they, at the end? Like, how naive can they possibly be? Like, watching that, like, thinking that this is going to be successful.
But I was just watching a thing about this relating to Disney and all the, they're remaking all the Disney films for like an adult audience and people going and paying their money. Like, they won't care that they've got like 2% on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever. So many people, so many Star Trek fans have bought it and watched it. And I bet any money, if they make another one, everyone will watch it out of curiosity.
Yeah, it's a cash cow, isn't it?
Yeah, but
It's basically got the same way as Star Wars.
It's not commercially successful, though, is it? Because even if
we would watch it because we'd have to review it.
We would, yes. But even if they bring out another one, nobody's going to subscribe to the streaming service. It's the people who no one's paying any extra for it.
No.
You know what I mean? It's not like before where if you watch it on TV or whatever, there's advertising because there isn't. You're paying your subscription fee, and that's it. It's not going to, it's not. No one's going to pay it. Well, I'm not going to say nobody because I can't speak for everyone, but you can't imagine people would pay extra for it. Whereas with the Disney lazy remakes. The live action remakes, don't call them live action. That's not a real fucking lion, right? I hate that.
You mentioned the budget. I tried to find the budget. Did you see the budget? Did you know what the budget is?
I didn't see the budget.
It's not going to be low, though, is it? It's not going to be low.
Michelle Yeoh got paid $12 million to do it.
Fuck me.
Wow. Jesus.
Oh, she can demand that money now because she's an Oscar winner.
Yeah.
Right. So
And it
this
wouldn't have-
might
it
be
wouldn't
a
have happened
slightly
without it as
controversial
well.
opinion, but I've heard a lot of people rave about her, and I really don't see what's so fantastic about her. I don't.
Good in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
That's what I said, yeah.
Yeah, I've not watched it.
She's good in that.
It's not my cup of
Quentin
tea.
Tarantino was going to have her in Kill Bill as the lady in white, but then he decided against it because he turned around and said no one would believe Uma Thurman could kick her ass.
Yeah.
See, I think with a lot of like I'm thinking of specifically like I haven't watched the second series, but Squid Game. So I watched the first episode of Squid Game with the English dub and didn't enjoy it. And then my boss at the time said, no, watch it in Korean with the subtitles because you get so much more of the nuance and the tone and the inflection. And I feel like a lot of Dan, you mentioned that it wasn't her first language. English isn't her first language. And I feel like sometimes when actors and actresses aren't with a crap script as well, you're not getting that nuance. You're not getting that. I've not seen her in anything else. I've not even seen her in any of other Star Treks. But I feel like you could lose that nuance and that wow ability.
It's how to emphasise on the right words and how to.
Well, the lines were shit.
You can compare her though. You can compare her from Discovery to this, and it is miles apart. Miles apart. Yeah.
So the only other thing I've ever seen her in was one of the James Bond films.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was either Tomorrow Never Dies or The World Is Not Enough.
I think it's about that the media magnet.
Was it a Brosnan?
That's the one with Elliot Carver, yeah.
Yeah, it was a Brosnan.
Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yeah.
The lines in this were so bad that Meryl Streep could have performed them and it would have looked shit, right? And if you've got somebody where English isn't a native language, and also as well, I was thinking about this earlier on when I was going for my walk at Cleethorpes eating my chips. Michelle Yeoh is married I remember being amazed at the time the guy, the FIA guy, used to run Ferrari, the Formula One team, and Jean Todt, that's him. I remember the first time seeing her at a Grand Prix at some event, and I couldn't believe they were married. He speaks several languages, so it may well be that even when they're at home, that English isn't the language that they use, in the domestic setting. And I think if you've got lines that are so stilted and awful, like it sounded like the 1980s kind of action films, when like something that Arnie would say in Commando.
Let off some steam.
Or Schwarzenegger in Batman and Robin, "Eyes to see you." They were just like really shit like lines that they were all designed to make her look like she's really badass and sassy and she's got attitude. But they're just so awful lines. It's it's difficult to say them and make them sound good. But if you're not entirely sure of how it's meant to be coming across, and you're delivering them quite seriously, it just, I don't know, it looked poor to me, and it made her look shit as a result. And I don't think she's a shit actress. She just looks shit in this.
See, I mean, in fairness, if that's the case, that's also goes to show how bad the director is as well. Because if he's not giving that direction to the actors, then he's not doing his job.
Funny you should say that, Chris.
You're right with the director, but
Yeah.
I do also think it is because this was planned obviously as a TV series, and so this whole story should have been played, along over a much longer time frame and allowed us to have character build up and all that. And they didn't have it, so whatever he was asked to do, he had to push a TV series into an hour and 40 film. I think like this should really hammer the nail in the coffin of Kurtzman. It should be the last thing.
I hope so. I do hope so. I do think it was badly directed though, and I said earlier on, I'm not sure if everybody was on the call at the time, but I watched this immediately after watching Severance, which I'm obsessed with at the minute, and it's gorgeously directed. It looks amazing, right?
It's the third time you've mentioned it.
Is it? Well, honestly, you've never seen White Corridors. Looks so good. And then when I watched this, this was like one of those films that's made by boardroom rather than people with artistic vision. I mean, if you look at the superhero movies, for example, I really dislike the Avengers films because I just find it so bland and boring. And then recently had The Batman, and when I watched it thinking, this looks great. It just looks great. Well, no matter what you think of the film, I think it's got a great visual appeal because they allowed somebody, a director, to actually execute his vision. And it feels like with this, it was like one of those boardroom things. Oh, we want a stud like this in one scene because it looks really, because that's what the figures show, that's what people want. And we want it to deliver these lines here, these really cool lines. And it just feels just really just naff, and I don't know. It's difficult to put into words, but it's just it doesn't add anything. It's just so yeah, exactly, yeah. It's just meh. It's just it doesn't really offer anything. I mean, the only ChatGPT. I mean, the only reason I didn't say this is total shit is because I do feel at least it doesn't attack Trek too much. So that's
what, it doesn't attack Trek, but it does for me kind of attack what we know and what's established for Section 31.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it does. So it might not attack.
You're right, and I
really
didn't give that thought. You're right.
It's always been a really professional organization, from what we've seen of it, because they were idiots. They were before. It was like you would never have those as our secret agents, which is what they're supposed to be.
Yeah. Are you trying to suggest that they weren't incognito?
God. When it came to the first scene, it was like you saw them kind of in the back, and there was no way you would have thought that's what the crew was going to be. Because, my God.
They should have had neon badges that flash saying Section 31.
I suppose, I don't really know a lot about Section 31, but we had just watched the episode in Deep Space Nine where O'Brien's sent to do something with the Orion Syndicate. I can't remember what the episode name is. So, that was really fresh in my head of that. The agent that he keeps going and meeting with, and it's sort of, and I thought it was going to be sort of, like people.
Cloak and Dagger intelligence.
I wasn't expecting as much action and as much the flashing lights and the
characters being so abrasive as well, so in your face abrasive. It was like that was the opposite of what they should be.
Here's a question for sort of everyone else. Would you have enjoyed it if they hadn't have called it Section 31. If they were
No.
like a ragtag, not even part of Starfleet or anything. But
No,
if
it
they
could have been a generic film. It could have been called "This is a generic sci-fi movie," and I might have watched it because it's a sci-fi movie, and I'm a big fan of sci-fi generally. But that was terrible. Whatever it was going to be called, wherever it was based.
I didn't even think of that, Brush. You know, that's such a good point. I'm watching this thinking, oh, at least it's not shitting all over Star Trek, completely ignoring the fact that this is completely misrepresenting Section 31. So maybe this will get moved down a tier from really bad, to shit now. But John Joe, there is a Star Trek thing in here actually, and I'm surprised you don't mention it. There's one thing that is really, really Star Trek that happens in this.
They called the things that they were using tricorders, didn't they?
Oh, did they? I didn't notice that. That's not the thing I'm going to say. There's one thing that happens in it that's so Star Trek that I actually laughed, right? And I've mentioned it. I've got some note here. Where is it? Oh, yeah. There's a question where somebody says, how did you get here from a parallel universe? And the answer is, well, there was an ion storm.
Yes, the nebula. It's always the nebula. Yeah.
There was an ion storm.
It's always an ion storm. But isn't it really easy to get from their universe to ours? And this is one of the things that really annoys me with these sorts of things, because it's so easy to do. And I've got the same actually complaint about about Star Trek 4, where it's just, if it's really that easy to just go back in time, if it's really that easy to just pop between, dimensions or parallel realities, then exactly, yeah, and that was a bit daft. Did anybody notice as well? You know where they've got that weapon where they kind of like start the molecules where the particles vibrate at a different frequency, so they pass through walls and that. They didn't fall through the floor, but that's a standard sci-fi trope. It happens all the time.
That's established in 2 Trek episodes. The one with Tasha Yar and Geordi on the Enterprise, where they're out of phase. She specifically said it's out of phase. And
Tasha Yar.
With the one where they go through the asteroid, where the Enterprise D goes through the asteroid, they don't fall through the floor there either. There you go, established. That was the only bit that was actually made any sense.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy it?
If I wasn't sat there as a Star Trek fan trying to work out timelines, plot lines, characters, if I didn't do any of that, it would have been all right. But I just sat entirely for an hour and a half going, what the is going on?
Yeah.
What's going on? I'm so confused. I'm watching the fight scenes. Some of it, I'm like, I can't even make out what's going on. So I couldn't see it. I didn't understand it.
Me put the subtitles on for you.
Because I couldn't hear what they were saying. It was like, they're speaking too fast. Oh my God, what's going on?
So you couldn't see it, you couldn't understand it. So basically, you're what we would have all liked to have been whilst watching.
I couldn't hear it properly. I had to have the subtitles on. And then I sat, but I must have sat for about 4 hours in silence after it, just staring into nothingness. Didn't watch anything else. Didn't do anything else. Didn't speak a word to Jed. I just sat there like...
Just fucking catatonic.
Catatonic.
Yeah, I was just staring into nothingness for hours.
What did you think of that?
And I was just like...
Oh, do you know what? She could have been that character that had the steampunk steam coming out of her ear while she's trying to figure it all out.
I didn't understand why they had to kill the Deltan in the first. I thought the violence was gratuitous over the females a lot. When Zsaju's getting that sword stuck in her cheek, man.
Oh, I quite like that scene, actually. I did quite like that scene.
And then it was like, and then she's like, oh, go. No, I'm not. Kick him in the neck with the knife. And then to get all soppy, like, oh, son, oh, I'm so sorry, oh, I love you, oh, son.
One bit I want to ask actually is the bit where she eats the eyeball. Whose eye was it?
Yeah, that was point. I didn't like that. I thought it was pointless. That was just that's trying to make her look badass again, and it's just like the way she does it, so dramatic. Like, it's just I didn't like that bit. I didn't
think it made her look badass. I think it made her look like bloody Hannibal Lecter. Where's her glass of Chianti?
Some Carver beans.
Fava beans.
Oh, fava beans. Sorry.
Fava beans.
Oh, I don't fucking know.
That was the type of one.
Hey, it's his eyeball dipped in cocktail.
I felt like the swearing in it. I feel like the swearing was just shoehorned in to try and make it like dark, like
yeah.
They kept, but it didn't fit. It didn't sound. Every time they swore, I don't mind swearing at all whatsoever, but it just sounded like jarring, like that it didn't fit.
Yeah,
it's one of those things. If you're gonna fucking swear, fucking say it and fucking mean it.
commit to it.
Someone got a TV on in the background.
Oh, Chris. Oh, Chris.
Session where 31, but you can't sit through us.
Turn your porn off. Just concentrate on one video at a time.
That's what I thought. I heard. I thought I've come to fix the photocopier. Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
Help!
I'm generally
Is
curious
that a
to highlight.
Romulan
No one's
phaser in
mentioned
your
Jamie
pocket? Or are you
Lee.
just happy to see me? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's one of those.
Jamie Lee-
StarTrekPorn.com.
Jamie Lee Curtis popping up at the end.
Yeah, I like that.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Reuniting them two from their Oscar-winning movie again.
Oh yeah, everything, everywhere, all at once, or whatever. Yeah.
No, I've seen it, but I just know them two are in it because they won the Oscars for it. And Data from Goonies did as well.
I did
Data from Goonies.
Data from the Goonies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all won.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I know you mean. I did get a Star Trek 5 vibes right at the beginning. You know, it's like the desert or whatever. You know, the opening of Star Trek 5. But that was it. I did quite like the beginning bit right at the beginning where she was, you know, the little girl on that. I know it all got a bit deaf, but I did feel that you felt like you were seeing something, a momentous event. You know, the crowning of the.
It's promising.
Yeah.
What, with a stupid Imperial Star Destroyer stuck in the fucking sand?
No, before that. I couldn't get past. I said this to you. I was like, oh, they're doing a dramatic retelling of the Hunger Games here. Like, that's.
I've never seen or read the Hunger Games. So I'm not familiar with it, but
It's that first bit where they're making fights to the left to see who's best. That's the Hunger
ah,
Games.
right. Okay.
The entire story of the Hunger Games.
Dan, have you seen Battle Royale?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Right, you've seen Hunger Games.
All right.
That's
Okay.
all it's fucking based on.
All right. Okay. I remember when they dish out weapons and somebody gets a bin lid. I remember that. But yeah. Dee, I've got a question for you. Seeing as you were asking questions earlier on, but this isn't a question. Don't worry, it's not a quiz about what happened in the episode. But normally, whenever we watch good Star Trek, be it a film or an episode, there's always kind of like something to take away. The challenging something, the asking a question. There's like a moral story, or there's something. And I struggled to see what that was in this. I think it was meant to be that Giorgio can be turned around and she can kind of do the Darth Vader thing and become good again. But given the crimes that Giorgio's already committed, that it feels as though there needs to be some account there. You can't go from being a genocidal maniac to being, actually not that bad, are you?
Bearing in mind, Dan, it ends on genocide of a mirror universe.
Exactly, yeah, throw that bomb through it, yeah. That doesn't feel very Trek to me at all. So, did anybody get any takeaways from this? Any like classic Trek?
It's a great point actually, because that realistically, that's what makes Trek.
But they did have that scene. But it was so glossed over. They had the scene where she's sorry, I'm going to be rubbish with the names, but she's talking with the leader of the Section 31 and saying like, oh, and if you could go back and you could kill the evil person that was in charge of you.
Yeah.
So there was, but it was so fleeting.
What's the moral takeaway from there, then?
You can redeem yourself. Like no matter what. I think the point of it was no matter what you've done in the past, you can have your redeeming moment.
She's done all these horrible things. Then you get that moment in the film where you could possibly be redeemed, and then 45 minutes later, she's like, "Now, fuck it, chuck the bomb through the mirror universe and do exactly what she did before."
Yeah. So basically, what we're taking away from this.
I'm going to rob a bank and then you can all forgive me tomorrow.
What we're basically taking away from this.
Give us some money, yeah.
Even Adolf Hitler had a little bit of humanity in it.
Yeah, well, I think the main takeaway is no matter how bad.
The YouTube title right there.
Now, the moral of this one is no matter what evil actions you perform, no matter how bad you are, you can always end up owning a nightclub in space. That seems to be the moral,
How many did she kill? Trillions.
Yeah, but she also served a lot of drinks, so job done.
She did look great in those outfits. So, what
you can murder billions, but as long as you look,
good,
wicked in a dress, it's all is forgiven.
As long as your outfit is serving.
Yeah, dress for the crimes you have, not the crimes you want to do.
You can slay while you slay.
That's it. Yeah.
And that is that's the other thing though that Dan said that makes it even less Trek than it already was. Trek stays away from contemporary music on purpose. I'm leaving Strange New Worlds out of this. That's why TNG doesn't feel as old as it is, even though some systems let it down still. But even the movie period and stuff, that doesn't feel as old as it is, because the only music they play is classical music, stuff that's already, way in the past, or stuff that is completely non-relatable. As soon as you play like 2000s music or 2020 music, it immediately dates a piece of media. And Star Trek's been so good not to do it that I can watch a bit of DS9 and forget that actually it's nearly 30 years old.
Do you know what would have been really funny is if when they'd cut to her bar scene, all you could hear in the background was
It might as well have been. It might as well have been.
It could have only enhanced the movie, couldn't it?
When it came on, I literally went.
There you go.
Exact same thing. But like picking up on the TOS thing and the new Trek and things like that. And it's interesting because like so doing like the reenacting and it's quite a lot of older people, and I say like, oh yeah, and I do the cosplay stuff as well and do it Star Trek. And I'll say, do this or that, and they're like, oh, what's that? Like, I've only watched TOS. Like, I don't watch any of the, and they call TNG like the new stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's that interesting. Like, there are going to be people that will just stick to TOS or stick to TNG, and there will be some people that enjoy the full breadth of.
Very much like there are 4 lights, there are 5 captains. End of story. That's all I want to talk about.
What are you eating? Is that a pasty or a biscuit? I can't quite see. Oh, it's a biscuit.
Biscuit.
It's not even got chocolate on it. It's not a proper biscuit. I think it's on mute. Oh, his mic's not working. Knowing Christian, because I've seen on Facebook, has been doing lots of muscle weight. It's probably a protein biscuit. Soggy biscuit. Well, it's instant protein, isn't it? When you think about it.
Ah, Jesus Christ.
And it's organic.
It depends what you've been eating.
Disgusting.
That's true. Yeah. Lay off the asparagus and the Monster Munch and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Bit of pineapple will be all right, though. Christian. Hello. We can hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me now?
Yeah.
Cool.
Did you watch Section 31?
No.
No. There we go.
Yeah, save yourself.
End of review. Thank you very much, Christian. Cheers.
I was going to watch it. I was going to watch it.
Done.
And then I saw all of you guys slagging it off in the group chat, and I went, actually, I'm not going to waste my time.
Don't. It's not Trek. It's not even a good film. Don't.
That's an amazing film.
What film?
Unbelievable. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark.
Oh,
exclamation
shit.
mark.
That is proper shit. Have you watched it now, Brush? I told you it was shit.
I slept through it.
I told you it was shit.
I woke up in the last 10 minutes and she looked at me so excited because what do you think about? I went, that was shit.
It's a shit stoner movie. It's crap.
Do you know what? I bought that on Amazon foreign.
Did you want to be flown in from another country?
It is proper shit. To be fair, that Section 31 is better than Unbelievable, honestly.
Oh, do you know what? I think I agree.
So bad.
Greetings, Shuttle Bay 4. This is a hard one. It's a hard one for me. So I'm just going to go straight into it. This isn't a positive review. This is an honest review. There's a look at the film itself, which is like a TV movie thing.
A streaming event.
And then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what it means to me and how it feels as Star Trek. So this mishmash, this kind of Frankenstein's monster made of bits of the Hunger Games, Mission Impossible, The Fifth Element, Ocean's 11, Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think the space station itself and things like that smacks of The Expanse. I think there's a fair bit taken from The Expanse here. This is all like pulled apart, bits and pieces of each thing, and I mean not long bits and pieces, not valuable, useful bits and pieces, just images, tableaus, scenes in fact, or certain parts of a scene just ripped out and ripped off and smushed into this like dirty snowball of shit ball, and just kind of nonchalant flung onto the screen of Paramount Plus, like, have that, you bastards. And that's basically what's happened here. And the characters are shit, immediately forgettable. The names are forgettable. The types of character, I mean, there's a lot of tropes going on here. There isn't anyone that you can invest in. You wouldn't even believe that these are the same kind of set of principles, ideals, and this is the same franchise that gave us Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. You wouldn't believe the franchise that brought us Deep Space Nine is this now. This is what it is now. It's painful. The characters are shit. Immediately forgettable and not worth investing in. And when you start following it for no reason, they're just killed off. I don't know what the Irish Vulcan thing is that's not a Vulcan. I don't get that. Just really annoying, grating fucking character. Everyone's mumbly. The dialogue's really mumbly, really, really hard to listen to, really hard to hear and pick out detail, to the point of subtitles almost. I just found that annoying as well, that you get this cutting Irish accent and then British and American, and you think, well, you know, I mean, you don't have to have a reason for everything, but if you're going to put things in, have a reason. Have a reason. So I'm struggling with, you know, all of this kind of stuff. And in amongst it, what do I recognise as Star Trek? A tiny amount of things. There's a few sound effects here. There's a few names of places here. But that's all I recognise as Star Trek. The Vulcan is not a Vulcan. The humans aren't being human. There's nothing here of Star Trek. There's nothing that's established as Star Trek at all. Starfleet's completely slagged off, and this, in amongst that, there's technical issues that I have with the storyline. So this phase thing, everyone said it, so I'm not going to dwell on it. But yes, if you can phase shift through walls, bulkheads, doors, why aren't you phase shifting through the floor, going towards whatever's generating the gravity? Why aren't you just phase shifting towards that now? I don't get what... I don't even know what that was for. It didn't do anything for the story. It didn't even make that crappy fight more interesting. You know, the Matrix style kind of really poor man's diet rip-off version of the Matrix Agent Smith Neo fight, which was, you know, yikes. We're saying yikes now. That yikes has entered the diction. Yikes! Yeah, let's just bung that in. Kids will love that. Let's say yikes. I mean, the timing's way off. The timing is way off. They're trying to inject comedy when you need drama. When you want drama there and you want just to put some accent on a point, like a moral point, like Star Trek should do, they're coming out with these weird jokes that aren't funny. None of it's funny. It's not even funny accidentally. It's and this mole plot, that whole plot with we have a mole, that was like really bad, fuzzy 1960s World War II show crap. You know, like, we have a mole. Who is it? Woo, and they're all looking at each other, and I'm like, you know what, I really don't care. You're all a bunch of cunts. I didn't see that. I don't know why that was there either. I don't know why that we have a mole thing. It was just disjointed at that point. It was really hard to watch, really jarring. Not nice, not funny, not interesting, didn't flow. There's nothing new. There's nothing. They're not even trying to come up with like a thing at the end. Like I don't know, like, not a teaser in the middle of the story, or kind of hinting at a spoiler and the old switcheroo at the end, and you know, this plot device that drops and you're like, oh, I never saw that coming. That didn't happen once in this. You need to be cerebral. You need to think about the story and have a lot to say to take away. So once you've watched it, you're thinking. And sci-fi's great for that. Sci-fi's really, really good for that. Obviously, this didn't do that. The Chaos Goblin. I've just wrote Chaos Goblin ? No Star Trek ships. There's no Star Trek ships. There's nothing that we can recognise as iconic or Star Trek or in the universe. There's nothing like that. That's what you want when you watch Star Trek. You can't just say Star Trek's dead, now it's this. Then leave Star Trek to be dead and call this something else. If you really wanted to make this, and you really, really wanted to, make it, but don't then call it Star Trek and try and shoehorn in a couple of sound effects and things like that and call it Star Trek. This isn't Star Trek. I put here, materialise the coil after ages sitting on your ass for no reason. I'll leave that statement there, because that's what happened. The cameo from Jamie Lee Curtis of True Lies, which is kind of like the spy thing. Is that where the spy thing come from? gives a secret and clandestine Section 31 briefing in a room full of people. So again, you've got that Mission Impossible. This is your mission, should you wish to accept it. And it is an impossible mission of saving the world on very thin odds and all of that kind of stuff. And this is, this secret briefing for this secret crew, this motley crew of rule breakers and whatnot. Highly, black ops stuff. And the briefing's given in a bar in a room full of people. I put here, Irish come Alabama dude was disappointing. Is that going to be his gimmick? Was that to be the gimmick? Because what we've got here is 4 episodes of a show, a pilot, crammed into this shit, crammed into this weird TV movie.
A streaming event.
Like the TV movie that was going to launch a series. And what is that the gimmick for this guy? Irish one week, Alabama the next. Are we going to have, every week he does a different accent? The space station is a ship? And that can move at warp speed? I mean, nothing really stopping that. But really, it's weak. It's thin. There's no style. There's no substance. The effects are superb. There was one nice thing. There was a touching scene with Giorgio and her lost love at the end. And they kind of come to terms. It was a very Star Warsy scene, in my opinion, but it was nice. I think that's down to the actors involved. I don't think it was written that way. I think the actors kind of pulled it out of the bag because of their substance and their quality and their class. I really don't think that was a deliberate thing that come together as they planned it. I think this is a shower. And I'll tell you, I'm going to put this down and I'll tell you what I think. Right? Far Beyond the Stars is probably one of the best episodes of Star Trek ever made. And it says things. It says things about the world we live in and about Star Trek and about imagination and about creating a world. What we have in Star Trek is the light, where we just assume for a moment that we become the best of the best. We become the best that we can be. We make those decisions as a species, and we progress past our infancy as a species, mature into an understanding, progressive, utopian society. And what does that look like? And does it have challenges? Yes, it has challenges, because utopia isn't exactly real or natural. It takes cultivation, it takes work and effort. And this has none of that. This has no light. This has no hope. This has no moral message or fibre or fabric or any of that. It's completely devoid of that. What it actually says is that Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future, and the thing that Star Trek really is and was and is, this light, this mature attitude for the species, is actually not real. It's underpinned by violence and murder. It's almost saying you can't have that utopian thing. You can't have that nice thing unless beneath it all is this layer of lawless, violent murder. This CIA kind of thing. No rules, carnage, and actually run by a fucking tyrant, a murdering bastard guilty of genocide that all of a sudden becomes a fluffy, happy-go-lucky hero, anti-hero type, but is in fact guilty of creating weapons of mass destruction and genocide. And that's who we turn to save our utopia, to murder people. And I don't like that message, particularly now with what's going on in the world, and it is actually going on, to say that utopia is a dream and it's stupid, and don't even bother going for that. Fundamentally, that is the message I'm getting from Section 31. There's no price to pay for these people. They can do this with impunity. They are not punished for it. They're not judged for it. They're encouraged to do it. And the worst of them is the leader. How do you get from Captain Kirk and Benjamin Sisko and the people that wrote Far Beyond the Stars, which is a masterpiece of layers of science fiction into science fiction? It's so well written and says so much about hatred and fear and persecution and prejudice and violence and crime I mean, it's such a well put together thing. And then not long after that, I watched this. I had a lump in my throat. I actually had a lump in my throat watching it. It is shit. Shit. It's not Star Trek. Not because the look and feel isn't there. And not because there isn't enough of the sound effects for me or the moral of the day. And not because it's Frankensteining together this fucking crap from all these other successful movies and franchises. And it's shamelessly ripping them off. Not because of that, but because it's punting this message. This vile, horrible message that this is the way. And out of Alex Kurtzman, I expected no less. Because this is his message to the world. This is the thing that he makes. Don't follow orders, mutiny. Mutiny and cry and demand, and you'll get what you want eventually. You don't need to be intelligent. You don't need to be a team player. You don't need to be gifted in any way. You don't need to look at what you can do well and exploit that. You don't need to seek your gifts and relish in the differences between each other's gifts and understand that when we put all of those together, we are more than the sum of our parts. No, we don't get any of that. We get mutiny, murder, genocide, violence, wanton cruelty, and then at the tagline at the end of it is, isn't this funny? No, it's not. This is just shit. Live long and prosper. You remember that? Remember that line? Let's do some of that.